Well, let's unpack this. Today, we're plunging into the vibrant, often unpredictable world of what's been buzzing on the X platform. We've sifted through a stack of posts that have truly been making waves, from the future of finance and startling social dynamics to crucial global affairs. Our mission, as always, is to cut through the noise and give you a real shortcut to being genuinely well-informed about the day's most talked about topics.
Absolutely. We've handpicked a selection of, truly significant posts from the past day, intentionally looking beyond just the headlines to the deeper contexts. What's particularly fascinating about this collection is how these seemingly disparate conversations often intertwine, connecting to larger societal and economic shifts. We're here to explore not just what was said, but the underlying implications and why it fundamentally matters for you.
Right. Let's kick things off with money, and a rather bold prediction that has sparked a lot of discussion. This first post comes from @Saylor, Michael Saylor himself, and it's remarkably concise, simply stating, in 21 years, you'll wish you'd bought more. This refers, of course, to Bitcoin. What's the real story behind this confident declaration?
Yeah, that post from Saylor is classic Saylor. It's a direct nod to MicroStrategy's aggressive strategy, which they embarked on way back in 2020. At the time, this move defied nearly every traditional investment norm. It even sparked, I believe it was a 2021 Harvard Business School case study questioning their debt-financed approach to acquiring Bitcoin.
And yet, it seems to have paid off for them, big time.
Dramatically so. As of June 2025, MicroStrategy has reported a massive 160% unrealized gain on their Bitcoin holdings and their stock. It surged over 300% in that same period, effectively silencing, much of that initial skepticism. Saylor's 21-year prediction also aligns with more recent analyses, like a 2025 Changeley report, which forecasts a continued bullish trend for Bitcoin. It's further bolstered by rising 200-day moving averages since May 2025. And for those unfamiliar, that 200-day moving average, it's a key technical indicator. Tracks the average closing price over the last 200 days, often used to signal long-term price trends. So essentially, it's saying the long game for Bitcoin looks strong.
So it's not just a tweet. It's really a statement, validating a high-stakes, pretty unconventional investment strategy that's actually yielded significant returns. That's a fascinating counterpoint to conventional financial wisdom.
Yeah.
But shifting from, individual investment to the broader landscape of national economic policy, this next post presents a striking contrast. It's from @WatcherGuru, and it states, JHSDEN. Ocherist, President Trump says interest rates should be at 1-2%. That's a pretty specific and surprisingly low target, isn't it?
It absolutely is. And it immediately raises an important question about the delicate balance between political influence and the independence of monetary policy. President Trump's call for 1-2% interest rates. It's in stark contrast to the Federal Reserve's current rate, which stands at 4.50%. The Fed, as we know, operates with a mandate for price stability and maximum employment, aiming to make decisions independent of political cycles.
So what's the Fed's reasoning for the current rates then? Why so much higher?
Well, Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell, in his June 24, 2025 testimony, explicitly cited ongoing uncertainty from tariffs and persistent inflation risks. Those are the key reasons for maintaining the current rates. Historically, if you look at the Federal Reserve data, rates peaked at 5.4% in 2023-2024 before stabilizing. And there was a 2020 National Bureau of Economic Research study suggesting that while lower rates can certainly stimulate economic growth, they also carry the risk of inflating asset bubbles. That's a concern that Powell himself has vocalized. So this tension highlights a fundamental debate, really.
Right. Should politicians have direct sway over interest rates, or is it better left to an independent central bank to manage the economy free from short-term political pressures?
Exactly. That's the core question.
That's a crucial distinction. Okay, from high-level economic policy, let's turn to a policy shift that hits millions of Americans directly, right in their wallets. This post from @Leading Report states, breaking, nearly 2 million student loan borrowers are set to have their wages garnished for repayment this summer, per WSJ. That sounds incredibly impactful for everyday people.
Oh, it is. The Wall Street Journal report truly underscores the sheer scale of this impact. This isn't just a minor adjustment, it marks the end of a 5-year pandemic pause on involuntary collections. It directly affects nearly 2 million of the 43 million borrowers in the U.S., and collectively they owe an astounding $1.6 trillion in student loan debt. What's particularly concerning is that this aggressive enforcement coincides with the Senate's proposed One Big Beautiful Bill, which aims to replace existing income-driven repayment plans like President Biden's SCE program.
Okay, so if income-driven plans were designed to help people manage their debt, is this new bill potentially doing the opposite?
Well, that's the concern. A 2023 National Bureau of Economic Research study actually showed that income-based repayment plans successfully reduce default rates by about 30%. So, moving away from such plans, combined with the reintroduction of wage garnishment, could certainly create significant financial strain for millions. And this also brings back some historical context. A 1991 Senate investigation into for-profit colleges found they accounted for 44% of student loan defaults, despite serving only 22% of borrowers. It points to systemic issues within the student loan landscape that wage garnishment alone just won't address. This policy shift could disproportionately affect those already struggling.
And speaking of economic impact and, well, who benefits, Governor Gavin Newsom offers a sharply critical perspective in his post. From @Gavin Newsom, largest transfer of wealth to the rich in American history, largest cut to Medicaid in American history, largest cut to food assistance in American history. Then it goes on. Electricity costs could go up by 30%. Millions of jobs could disappear. $4 trillion will be added to the, and the post cuts off there. That's a pretty strong, multi-pronged accusation.
Indeed. This post from Governor Newsom touches on a long-standing and, let's face it, often contentious debate about wealth distribution in America. While he claims a largest transfer of wealth to the rich, it's important to consider historical precedents. Remember the 2009 financial bailouts? $700 billion in TARP, the Troubled Asset Relief Program funds, were distributed, ostensibly to stabilize the financial system during the crisis. But a 2011 National Bureau of Economic Research paper revealed that 17% of those funds were used by banks for executive bonuses, which certainly challenges the narrative of universal economic rescue.
Right, so it's not exactly a new concept, this idea of wealth concentrating at the top.
Right.
Not at all. IRS data indicates that the top 1% income share rose from 17.9% back in 2009 to 19.3% by 2023. And economic models from the Congressional Budget Office further project that potential 2025 tax cuts could increase income inequality by about 5% over a decade if they are enacted. Newsom's post is a pointed critique, highlighting the ongoing policy choices that, from his perspective, exacerbate existing economic disparities and reduce the social safety net, particularly for vulnerable populations.
That truly highlights how complex and interconnected economic policy is. It impacts everything from individual finances to, broader societal structures. Okay, let's pivot now to something entirely different but equally impactful: innovation and the future of health. This next post from @Vitrupo quotes Patrick Collison, co-founder of Stripe. He says, Patrick Collison says humanity has never cured a complex disease. No, not cancer, not Alzheimer's, not type 1 diabetes. His ARC Institute is trying something new. Simulate biology with AI. Test interventions before touching the body. Build a virtual cell. Test hypotheses in code. Wow, that's an incredibly ambitious vision.
It's audacious, yes. Definitely audacious. But it points to a profound shift in biomedical research. Collison's statement reflects the persistent challenges we face in tackling complex diseases, despite, decades of research and billions in funding. His ARC Institute is essentially pioneering the use of AI to create what they call a virtual cell. Imagine a digital replica of a human cell, or even a system of cells that behaves just like its biological counterpart.
So instead of traditional lab work, petri dishes and all that, they're running simulations. On computers.
Exactly. This allows them to computationally test potential interventions and drug candidates before ever touching a human body or even a physical cell culture. This approach has the potential to, revolutionize drug discovery by drastically cutting down on the time and the astronomical costs associated with traditional experimental methods. And this isn't just theoretical. Their state model, for instance, has been trained on massive data sets, over 170 million cells of observational data and more than 100 million cells of perturbational data. This is a monumental shift towards data-driven predictive models in biomedical research. It's aiming to accelerate breakthroughs in areas where we've long been stuck. It offers a glimpse into a future where new cures might be discovered far more rapidly.
That's truly groundbreaking, yeah. Moving from the lab to the simulation, speeding up the process, that's incredible. But while we're talking about health and what we put into our bodies, this next post from @Wall Street Apes dives into something many of us encounter every day at the supermarket. But maybe we don't know the full story behind it. It says, many supermarket meats aren't just meats. They're injected with a plumping solution made of water, salts, phosphates, and preservatives.
Right.
And why? To increase the weight, increase shelf life, and then increase profits. This has to stop. Make America healthy again. This sounds concerning.
It absolutely raises an important question about consumer transparency and, frankly, the quality of the food we buy. The practice described is officially known as plumping or enhancing, and it means you're literally paying for added water and chemicals in your meat. Studies show that plump chicken, for instance, can contain up to 30% of its weight in saltwater solution. That doesn't just impact taste or texture. It means you could be paying an extra, $1.70 per package for something that's essentially just water and salt.
Hmm. So beyond the cost, what are the health implications of this? Is it actually bad for you?
The health implications are significant, particularly concerning sodium intake. Plump chicken can have anywhere from 200 to 500 milligrams of sodium per serving. Compare that to maybe 45 to 70 milligrams in non-plump chicken. That dramatically increases your sodium consumption. It could potentially exceed 25% of the USDA's recommended daily intake with just one serving. Organizations like the American Heart Association and the National Academy of Sciences have actively explored these concerns, because of the link between high sodium and cardiovascular issues. What's also highlighted here is a regulatory loophole. Under current USDA rules, plumped meats can still be labeled all natural, which sparks heated debate among both producers and consumer advocacy groups who are pushing for more explicit labeling. It's a classic case of what you see on the label not always being the full story.
Wow. That's certainly something to keep in mind on our next grocery run. Definitely. Okay, shifting gears from health and economics to fundamental issues of justice and civil liberties. This next post from At Longtime History describes a truly chilling incident. Quote, ICE arrest Pasadena mother without warrant. Turns out they abducted wrong person. Quote, only 2 or 3 agents had a badge. None were in uniform. I didn't know if I was witnessing a hate crime or a kidnapping, said witness. Video cuts off just as daughter begs, call the police. That's deeply disturbing account.
It is, and it brings to the forefront critical questions about due process and civil rights in law enforcement. The incident involved ICE's agents mistakenly detaining Rosalina Luna Vargas, who is a U.S. citizen, without a warrant or proper identification. This caused immense drama not just for her, but for her family and the community. The fact that agents were not in uniform and apparently lacked proper identification immediately heightened fears of a kidnapping rather than a legitimate arrest. You can understand why.
Yeah, absolutely. What was the broader reaction to this? Did it make waves?
Oh, it quickly sparked significant local and national concern. LA County Supervisor Hilda Solis, for example, publicly proposed legal action against what she termed unconstitutional immigration enforcement. This case, unfortunately, seems to fit into a broader pattern of reported ICE errors, including the detention of over 70 U.S. citizens in similar mistaken identity situations, and even controversies surrounding the construction of deportation camps. Such incidents really call into question the agency's accountability and severely erode community trust in law enforcement. It underscores the vital importance of transparency and adherence to legal protocols.
It certainly raises essential questions about the power of government agencies and, well, the rights of individuals. Crucial stuff. And speaking of government, let's turn to potential shifts in the political landscape. This next post from @NickSerator is creating quite a buzz. Breaking. Lara Trump is seriously considering making a run for Senate to replace Thom Tillis. Per notice, North Carolina is her home state, so it could certainly happen. That'd be a massive upgrade. This would be a significant development, wouldn't it, in North Carolina politics?
Absolutely. If we connect this to the bigger picture, Lara Trump's potential Senate run in North Carolina comes right on the heels of Thom Tillis's announced retirement on June 29, 2025. Tillis had reportedly clashed with former President Trump over certain tax and spending bills, and his opposition to Medicaid cuts, which impact nearly 12 million Americans, was also a significant factor in some political circles.
Okay. So her candidacy gains traction partly because of this alignment or perceived alignment with the former president and Tillis's departure.
Exactly. Lara Trump's candidacy gained significant traction not just because of her direct ties to the Trump family, which is obvious, but also her strong roots in North Carolina. It's her home state. Her recent business ventures, like LT Music LLC, filed just in April 2025, and her previous political roles, such as RNC co-chair until December 2024, they signal a strategic expansion of her influence. Tillis's exit also reflects, I think, a broader shift within the Republican Party. Studies from the American Political Science Review back in 2023 noted an increased party polarization. This environment means dissenters often face primary challenges, potentially paving the way for MAGA-aligned candidates like Lara Trump to reshape Senate dynamics and push for a more unified conservative agenda. It's a strategic move that could have ripple effects far beyond North Carolina.
It's clear that the political landscape is constantly evolving, with new players emerging all the time. Now, to wrap up our deep dive today, let's turn to a very personal revelation shared on X from @AutismCapital. It says, Scott Adams says that he was in so much pain that he had planned to euthanize himself today. Quote, He recently started taking a new hormonate testosterone blocker and says that he's currently pain-free, and he hopes that this can add a few years to his life. That's an incredibly stark and raw admission.
It really is. This post highlights Scott Adams, the well-known creator of the Dilbert comic strip, revealing on a YouTube livestream that he has metastatic prostate cancer. This is a very aggressive form of cancer, actually similar to what former President Joe Biden was recently diagnosed with. Adams described his condition as intolerable and excruciatingly painful, to the point where he required a walker just to move.
And he'd actually planned to end his life because of the pain.
Yes, that's what he said. His announcement came shortly after Biden's diagnosis was made public, which apparently prompted Adams to share his own incredibly difficult prognosis. He stated he had expected to live only a few more months due to the severity of his condition. His candid discussion about contemplating euthanasia and then the unexpected relief he found from the new medication, it offers a powerful, albeit very personal, look at chronic pain and the desperation it can cause. While Adams has, a controversial public persona, this revelation has elicited a range of strong responses, from profound sympathy to surprise, given his previous silence on the true gravity of his illness. It's a reminder of the human element behind even the most public figures.
Wow, what a whirlwind tour through today's trending topics on X. Seriously. From the future of finance and the cutting edge of AI and health, to critical issues of justice, consumer transparency, and the very fabric of our political landscape, it really shows you how much information is out there and how quickly the conversation shifts, often in surprising ways.
Indeed. And this entire deep dive, it raises an important question for all of us, doesn't it? In a world where information moves at the speed of a tweet and sometimes entire policy discussions unfold in, truncated posts, how do we continue to discern the truly significant insights from the fleeting buzz? What connections will you start to see between these seemingly separate threads that constantly shape our daily realities?
Something to chew on for sure. That's our deep dive for today. We hope you feel a little more well-informed and maybe better equipped to navigate the constantly evolving information landscape out there.